everybody to another episode of Coffee with ADHD Experts. This innovative series brings together some of the most eminent experts in ADHD and mental health in the world. We know that demands on mental health services are rising. We know that this increase can never be met by professionals alone. You are welcome to join us and enjoy this collective experience. Let me introduce to Dr. Norma Echavarria. She's a medical doctor, an adult psychiatrist. She's the president of the ADHD chapter in Argentina at the Argentine Association of Psychiatry. She's also an APA International Fellow, a member of ADHD Federation, and Hispanic Psychiatry Association member. And myself, I'm Eleonora Giusti. I'm PhD clinical psychologist. I'm vice president of the ADHD chapter in Argentina and also professor at Palermo University. So, Norma, if you like,
yes,
you introduce our guest today.
Okay, so I'm very glad to introduce to all of you Dr. Phil Anderton. He's a PhD and came into the world of ADHD as a senior UK police officer. He realized that far too many people were getting into trouble with the police because of their ADHD, and he wanted to stop this. Phil campaigned across the UK, the USA, and Europe to see if he could make a difference. After retirement from the police, Phil's second career as a management consultant has eventually led to him starting his own healthcare business, specializing in ADHD. His company, ADHD 360, proudly also treats prisoners with ADHD, and they are about to be released into society to ensure they stay in treatment and out of trouble. So let me welcome and us welcome to all of you, Phil.
Thank
Okay.
you,
I'm happy to see you, Phil.
Thank you, and it's nice to see you again, Norma, and nice to meet you, Eleonora.
Thank you very much. So let's go with the first question. As a researcher or a teacher or advocate or a lawyer, and being one of the main references in this field, what had led you to work with this ADHD population? And in your opinion, how did your interventions make a difference?
Okay, now then, the police officer, what a great phone ring at a great time, Norma. Well done, well done. I was a police officer, and I realized that if people's ADHD wasn't treated properly and thoroughly, they could probably end up in prison, breaking the law, taking drugs, crashing cars. And I felt that was unfair, because if we gave them the treatment that they needed, then they wouldn't perhaps be in the position to break the law, and they would have a better lifestyle and a better set of outcomes in their life. So as a police officer, I started to work with ADHD to try and get more people in treatment and less people in prison. I was really fortunate to work with Norma in Chad, in the Chad organization, across different meetings in America. And in each venue, I worked with the police across America at raising awareness of this phenomenon, working with the courts. My work in America led to me working in the prison system and in the probation system across America, as well as obviously at home in the UK and in Europe. The final part of your question there, Eleonora, was what difference did it make? Well, I know we made a difference, but I don't think we made the difference I was looking for. I don't think we made enough difference. And that haunts me, that disappoints me. Now then, if we fast forwards to where I am now, as the owner of a healthcare providing company with 1,000 patients on our books, we've a lot of patients who abuse drugs, with patients in prison waiting to come out, with patients who are at the risk of offending or being excluded from school. And I'm really proud that they are the patients that we take on. They're the patients we treat to try and stop that path, that pathway from being their lifestyle without choice. So whereas as a policeman, I was saying this needs to happen, here I am, much older, a little bit wiser, and very much grayer, now proudly making that happen as opposed to asking other people to do it. So now is the time that I'm making the difference, and that's important.
Well, that's an amazing thing, and I know how much you've been doing, Phil. I do remember those chat meetings and all the work you started so many years ago. So
the answer, but what have you achieved getting actively involved? You already said that. And did you find any cultural, social, gender, or conditional or barriers on that path at your community or your administration, government, or?
Well, you know, it was 20 years ago when I started working in ADHD. And if we all collectively think back to 20 years ago, girls and women were not at the forefront of thinking with regard to ADHD. It was very much still a child's illness, not necessarily going forward into adulthood. And although a lot of us who didn't make policy at the time, we knew that there were as many women as men, and we knew that there were as many adults as children, if not more. We were unable 20 years ago to make that big difference and shift the mindset from it being a boys thing, a naughty boys thing, and necessarily break down those cultural, age and gender-based barriers. Well, come forward to 2021. We have as many women in service as we do have men. We have as many adults as we do have children. And I think it's testimony to the work of supporter groups, lobby groups, pressure groups, influencing groups, such as CHAD in the UK and CHAD chapters in South America and ADIS in the UK, that we've brought about that change, where we're now treating women a lot more and we're treating children a lot more. And, you know, if I can just expand on the question, Eleonora, one of the new pieces of work we're doing is starting to alter a woman's medicine throughout the month to make sure that when she has her period, and I don't know how that word will translate, but when she is menstruating, she needs a different set of medicines, or at a different level, a different dose, to when she's not. And we're proudly championing a fluctuation in medicine through the month in relation to the menstrual cycle. And if we think 20 years ago that we have modern science to do that, we'd have never dreamt that we could get this far. So it's an exciting perspective for 2021. It was exciting for me in 2001, but I think where we are now is a much better place.
Wow,
amazing.
I love that work you're doing. You know what? It's so important, because those shifts in meds are sometimes, it's also what happens when they are pregnant. Well, we have many things to talk, but let's keep on the questions, and then we open the time you have.
Okay. So this concerns to the past. You already told us the present and future. On which step from the way through your ADHD role would you say you are today? And what do you imagine the ADHD field to be like in the future?
I think, for me, as an individual, today is always the start of a new journey and a new adventure. There's always something that crystallizes or gives me a new idea on a daily basis. And the goal is to keep putting those things into place and making those things happen. And so every day is the start of a new journey and new adventure. If we were driving a car, my car, I have a very little mirror to look backwards, but I have a huge windscreen to look forwards. And it's the looking forwards that we need to keep doing. So yeah, 2001, it was very different to where we are today. But where are we going to be in 20 years? Well, that's the second part of your question, really, isn't it? I don't think in 20 years we'll be talking about ADHD. I think we'll be talking about emotional dysregulation. I think we'll be talking about executive functioning. I think we'll be talking about the manifestations of the current ADHD will be broken down so we can actually see what we're dealing with. very, very, very few patients complain about being impulsive or inattentive or hyperactive. Our patients talk about the failed marriage, their struggles at school. And I think the definition of what we're dealing with will mature and migrate into being outcomes based a lot more, so we know what we're treating. So I don't give a damn about a patient being impulsive. I need, if it's a child, I need them to be able to get through school much better. I need them to achieve their potential. I need them to be able to engage in the schooling so they can get the better job, have a better future. If it's an adult whose relationship is failing because of their ADHD, I'm not going to measure impairment in terms of impulsivity and hyperactivity. I'm going to measure it in terms of, can we save your marriage? And I think over the next 20-year period, and good God, I'll be 77 then, so I may not be in a fit state to have this conversation. But I don't think we'll be talking about ADHD. I think ADHD as a title prevents us from actually dealing with the real issues. And I think we need to change that. So DSM-6, DSM-7, DSM-8, I think we'll see changes.
I would love that.
It's amazing. I couldn't agree more because, you know, I'm a clinical psychologist. I work mostly with adults, and the interpersonal area is the most, people say, I want to connect, to get in connection with my friends, my spouse, my parents, and I'm not able to do that because of my impulsivity, because, okay. So yes. I think
it is an amazing very thing.
Important. Yes, it's a broader concept beyond the academics, beyond all that stuff. No, it's important.
Yeah, there's a gap to make friends. I always say you can always learn, but there's a gap in your life where you're knowing how to connect with others and make friends and get like your self-image, like you are worth it. And when kids are going through all this adolescence, this tough time, so many times it's so hard to work that out. No, it's like to recover from that image that they've designed in their minds. No. Yeah. So Phil, we would love to have like a home take message. What would be your message? We are so grateful to have you here. All our Hispanic community will be able to listen to you, your words, your experience, and we're so glad. What would be the message for all of us?
That's a really good question. I think the message to parents would be, get the right treatment for your child and get it as quickly as you can, and don't be at all frightened of medicine, because that's the one thing that's going to sort your child out. I think for children, it is believe in yourself, because you're still a super person. You've just got some challenges ahead of you at the moment. Get over those challenges and be the super person that you can be, and believe in yourself. Because what we don't want is the next generation to be anxious, worried about themselves, and concerned. Celebrate who you are, and let's just improve your ability to do some of the things that you're finding difficult at the moment. And then for clinical teams, for me, the message for clinical teams is, stop reading the manual and go with your heart. Because medicine doesn't come from a manual. Medicine comes from, what do I need to do for this person? I had a meeting with a GP, a general practitioner doctor, community doctor, who couldn't see that what he was doing was not helping his patients. And surely the purpose of medicine is to help the patient. And if we have to rip up the manual to make sure we do what's right, then rip up the manual. I don't care what the DSM says about hyperactivity, inattentiveness, and impulsivity. If that person's marriage is on the rocks, that's what matters, and we need to sort that out. If the child is about to be excluded from school, we need to make sure we get them back into school and we keep them in school. And if the manual doesn't like it, chuck out the manual, and let's get back to some core values of medicine, I would say.
That's such a great message, Phil. That's an amazing thing. Emotional struggle with people with ADHD, and families, because they are really isolated from others, and they do suffer, they feel guilty, and they are covered with a lot of stigma. So that's a great thing to remember, that we are treating people and helping them to be better person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about.
So that's an amazing statement for us to have. So I don't know, Eleonora, if you want to ask questions.
One more question for my records. I wonder if you you have any research in female population, in prison female population related to ADHD in the UK. Do you have any
In the female population?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot there. And if you think about the historic journey we've gone through, we've still to crack that one. We've still got a lot of work to do there. Certainly all my work in the UK is around the male offender, not the female offender. So Eleonora, that's come back in 10 years and we'll have that.
Or maybe let's do something about it together.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Get all our energies in the same road. So we will just try to work together. So nice to see you back, Phil. I do remember all the time we spent, and it's so nice. We don't have a beer now to start. It's just a coffee. Or
next time.
Next time. Hope next time. So our love, and we really dare to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Many people.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.